This is Business Week Armenia, ＳիվիլNeթ's weekly economic digest. Here's what's making business headlines in Armenia this week. Armenia has lifted visa requirements for citizens of 3 Arab Gulf states and for permanent residents of a number of other countries in the region and around the world in a bid to boost tourism. Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan's cabinet this week approved changes that will allow citizens of Bahrain, Oman, and Saudi Arabia to enter Armenia for up to 180 days per year without visas. The updated travel policy will also apply to foreign nationals with permanent residency in Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, as well as in the United States and European Union. Economy Minister Gevorg Papoyan said he welcomed the changes, which his agency forecasts will boost tourism and facilitate greater foreign investments from wealthy countries. The updated travel policy comes as the number of tourists visiting Armenia continues to decline, following a major uptick in arrivals in 2022 and 2023. According to official figures, some 386,000 tourists visited Armenia in the first quarter of the year, marking a year-on-year decrease of about 11.3%. That has largely been fueled by a notable drop in interest from Russian tourists, who visited Armenia in large numbers in 2022 and 23, as global sanctions over the invasion of Ukraine limited their international travel options. But despite the decline, Russia still represents the largest market for tourism to Armenia, with about 37% of all visitors so far this year coming from Russia. According to estimates from the nonprofit World Travel and Tourism Council, tourism accounted for about 13.4% of Armenia's gross domestic product last year and supported more than 180,000 local jobs. Those figures remain substantially lower than in neighboring Georgia. Yerevan and Tbilisi are in talks, senior officials have confirmed, as Georgia continues to block Armenian brandy and wine producers from exporting to Russia, their main foreign market. Discussions are being held at the highest level to understand why all of this is happening, State Revenue Committee Chair Eduard Hagopian told reporters this week. Earlier this month, Armenian brandy and wine producers said their products were being held up for weeks of inspections in Georgia, even though the shipments were destined for Russia. The exporters have held a number of protests in front of the Georgian embassy in Yerevan, warning that the lengthy delays are threatening their company's profitability. They say they have never before experienced such holdups. Georgia claims the checks are part of normal customs procedures, according to Hakopian. Otherwise, the country has remained silent on the issue. Meanwhile, Papoyan, the economy minister, told reporters this week he would be open to visiting Georgia to try to resolve the issue, but added, "My visit could not change the situation any more than communication via an online call could." Brandy and wine have long been 2 of Armenia's top export goods, and Russia has long been the country's main foreign market. In 2023, Armenia exported about $309 million worth of hard liquor and another $18.5 million in wine, according to the Observatory of Economic Complexity database. Russia accounted for about 82% of Armenia's hard liquor exports and 69% of Armenia's wine exports that year. Armenian producers typically send goods destined for Russia overland through Georgia. And finally, in macroeconomic news, Armenia's gross domestic product expanded by 5.2% year-on-year in the first quarter, the country's Statistical Committee said this week, largely in line with government and expert forecasts. Earlier this month, the Statistical Committee said Armenia's Economic Activity Index, a government indicator that corresponds roughly to economic growth, increased by 4.1% in that period. It was not immediately clear why the GDP figure was substantially higher than the Economic Activity Index number. In any case, growth so far this year has largely been fueled by booms in financial and insurance services, information and communications, and construction, which all expanded by double-digit figures year-on-year. Energy production, agriculture, real estate, and wholesale and retail trade all grew more modestly. In sharp contrast, manufacturing fell by 21.1%, a decline observers attribute largely to a slowdown in Armenia's mineral re-export industry. In 2023 and 24, Russia shipped large amounts of gold and diamonds to international markets through Armenia to get around global sanctions, but stopped doing so last year after changes to Russia's export policy diminished producers' need to use Armenia as an intermediary. Overall, this quarter's 5.2% growth corresponds roughly to officials and observers' forecasts of a 5% expansion this year. Last year, Armenia's gross domestic product increased by 5.9% in a clear sign of moderation following 2 strong years of expansion, charged by massive inflows of capital and labor from Russia and a rerouting of part of Moscow's international trade through Yerevan. Those knock-on effects of Russia's invasion of Ukraine helped Armenia's economy to grow by 12.6% in 2022, followed by a further 8.3% increase in 2023. And as always, please follow CivilNet for the latest news and independent reporting from our contributors on the ground here in Armenia.